G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder, and welcome to patch day of patch 2.3 hot tracks. Trash? Depends on what you think. If you're flying a 9.7, it would probably be hot trash. Well, ladies and gents, we're going to have a look at the A-7D Corsair, which is one of the hot contenders for best plane this patch, without a shred of a doubt. Not to be confused with the F8 Cutlass, which is kind of what I did. I was today years old when I learnt that the F8 Cutlass and the A7 Corsair 2 are two separate planes. That is correct. That is how little I know about Cold War aircraft. Enjoy your day. I can't believe that though. They are separate aircraft, of course, and that kind of explains why the French didn't get one of these, which is what I was thinking earlier. Anyway, the A7 Corsair 2, it's pretty good. It's kind of somewhere between a Hunter and a Sabre, and like a Super Sabre in some cases, in terms of its performance, particularly in turns. It very much resembles like a mix between the Sabre and the Super Sabre. It retains energy okay, but it can also dump a fair bit of speed depending on what maneuvers you make. The flaps are pretty much unreliable. I would probably only use them for landing. The engine is okay, it's nothing particularly special. I guess it's because the plane's so damn heavy, you're not really going to outrun everything you face, especially as you get up-tiered and things do 1200 on the deck. This thing does about 1130, 1150, and then you strap the BRRRRRRRRRT pods on, which is exactly what I've done here, and you're basically going to go sub 1100 in most cases. You're going to have a hard time getting above those speeds, which is why I would recommend that you climb. Now, in this particular match, I've been up-tiered to 9.7, and at 9.7 there are these things called Harriers. The Harriers are perhaps the biggest pest at the moment, not only because the SRAMs, but because there are so many of them. It kind of spams and ruins the matchmaker in a way. Like I said in my Harrier video itself, the Harrier is not invincible, of course. And one of the things that you can do, is, especially if you're in an A7, is try and climb behind them. And that's exactly what I've done here. Notice that I've gotten an attacker spawn, and I'm basically over the airfield within a couple of minutes of the match starting. You have to keep this in mind, because if you are going to be sort of using a rushing technique, know that your team is going to be like 20 kilometers behind you. So it's either going to be you and other A7s, or just you. So you have to do with that information as you see fit. I would personally climb off to the side and wait for my team to gather a little bit of distance, maybe start engaging, and then try and come at your opponents from behind, especially those Harriers who are climbing. A slow Harrier is very much a dead Harrier. They're only really good on the offensive, and so if you can catch them with their pants down, then you actually have a fairly easy time killing them, provided that they are a little bit susceptible to your missiles. And speaking of missiles, this thing gets something that is a little bit bullshit, that's safe to say. It's got two AIM-9Js, and whilst it only has two of them, they are AIM-9Js. They do perform ridiculously well, and I'm going to use them here against a MiG-17 and a MiG-15. These are two planes that should never seek anything stronger than an AIM-9E, because this thing pulls like 16 to 20 Gs and is very, very good at longer distances. It's a truly insane missile. So today we're going to show two games. This is the first match, and I do actually end up getting shot down here, which is a big sad. But you'll see just sort of how powerful this thing is in the right circumstances, and sort of how to play at the beginning of the match. You can see I absolutely obliterate a Shenyang F5 here. The plane has guns out the arsehole when you throw the 30 mils on. It's actually incredible the amount of firepower that you can procure. This thing just absolutely slaps, and the guns go to like 1.5 kilometers in some cases. So nothing is safe head on. Nothing is safe in a run. Like, look at this Harrier here. Have a look at the spray I'm going to throw out, and it connects at 1.1. So I sprayed from about 1.3, and it sets him on fire. This thing has incredible firepower, and honestly, if it wasn't for the Harriers, this thing would be absolutely dominant right now. One thing you do have to note as a side note here is that Hunters can and will snap onto you if you're not careful. As you can see there, I end up biting the bullet, which, much to my dismay, denies me my ace. Very, very sad day indeed. But that just goes to show that this thing is not broken overpowered, but it does have brutally powerful weapon systems, which kind of, in my opinion, require a little bit of balancing. I would say remove the AIM-9Js and keep the AIM-9Es. I think AIM-9Es are perfect for 9.3. In some cases, or in some situations, especially as you go to the higher tiers, I somewhat agree with what Koala had to say about attackers, where they shouldn't be like dominant. They shouldn't be sort of on par with fighters. They should be sort of a meme plane, if you will, with a lot more ground carrying capability. And that's kind of what the A7 should be. It should be the meme plane. It's got the meme gun pods, the 30mm brute cannons. And I think that's where the competitiveness should end in a saying. It shouldn't be 9.7. I think 9.7 is a bit rough for a plane that can do barely 1150 on the deck. I do think, however, it should have its AIM-9Js removed, and it should have the AIM-9Es instead, which it currently has in-game anyway. So I don't really see an issue with the AIM-9Es at this tier. I do see an issue with those AIM-9Js, but the rest of the plane is basically fine, and you'll kind of see that here. It's not kind of invincible as such. I'm going to go for a quick head-on here with the G91, not trade anything because I'm not aiming it properly, and I'm going to continue forward. I'm going to keep that speed, keep that momentum, and I can see a little MiG-17 here, but honestly, the Harrier is looking like the juicier target. This thing, with the AIM-9Js, I will say, is a Harrier's worst enemy. It's literally the bane of the Harrier, and unfortunately I can't be the bane of this Harrier because my shots miss, but there's another one who's ready to sort of soak up my gunfire. He wasn't even paying attention, so I basically net myself a free kill there. Even though I do get hits, it is enough to sort of put him into the ground there. He does a funny maneuver and oofs it into the ground like a little Roblox kid. So what I was going to do here was dive in on that MiG-15, and then I spot the Shenyang, I spot the Harrier, and then last of all I spot the Hunter. So I'm going to brute a little bit for the Hunter, set him on fire, and then I'm going to immediately cut up into the Shenyang. You can see when I turn I do bleed a bit of speed, but I do bleed enough just to sort of sit underneath him, brute him again, and then the MiG-15 is right below without being a threat. MiG-17 comes in for a missile, but of course I have enough airspeed to dodge that, and now I'm in a little bit of a pickle. So in this particular case, I've dived, I've got a lot of speed, and this Harrier is sort of struggling to keep up. I guess they've had to put their throttle down to 93%, but you can see there, Anton Utensteff, not the CEO of Gaijin, I can assure you he wouldn't play under his real name. I think he plays under a different name. I can't quite remember which one it is, but you never see him in game anyway, so... Anyway, this particular Harrier has decided to basically pull off because there's an F-86F and an F-100 approaching who have gladly agreed to assist me. F-86 just pulls a beautiful shot on the GR1, saving my ass, which makes me really happy. And now the MiG-17 has come back for a little bit of fun, let's say. It is an AS because it did launch a missile at me, and I just missed my shots there on the AS. Now, because he is pulling in for the F-100, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually turn after him. I'm going to turn and burn. I don't recommend that you do this on a regular basis because look at that. He just turned in towards me at the last minute and just managed to get in. Now, I have managed to use some flaps and I barely can get the guns on target. And the only reason why I'm keeping up with this MiG in a turn without slamming on my air brake and wasting all of my energy is that this guy is being engaged by multiple opponents who are sort of keeping him at bay. Bit of an ambitious missile there, and unfortunately it doesn't connect. But I'm about to completely blast this guy in a shot that... These guns are just brutal. They are absolutely juicy guns. They just do so much damage. And I would actually recommend carrying the pods over just the 20 mils. It's one of those things where, you know, there's a bit of a debate between whether you carry pods or whether you carry no pods for the extra performance. But honestly, it makes very little difference. You still have the wing pylons. You still have... other stuff. You might as well slap on the pods, go for a little bit of brute, and then if you want, when your opponents have sort of gone to space, or when you can't be bothered to chase down that last guy, you can always go after pillboxes and try and end the game that way. And you can do it with the air target belts because they also pen 100 mils. So you have plenty of options with the Corsair 2. I almost said Crusader 2, which brings me back to me only knowing that the Corsair and the Crusader are separate planes themselves. Regardless, this thing is fairly quick on the deck, but I wouldn't be putting it into any racing competitions as such. It's probably a bit faster, maybe about the same speed as the Buccaneer at top speed at the deck. So it's really, really not that quick. You can be quicker in a lot of other planes at 9.3 and 9.7 in fact. But at the moment, it's just the 9Js and the gun pods that just do the magic on this plane. It really is just this really nice plane to fight the Harriers. Now, you're not going to be invincible against Harriers, and you have to remember, because you have that attacker spawn, you're not always going to be around enough teammates, and you can get swarmed if you climb into the path of the Harriers. So my recommendation would be to side climb a little bit, go for some like Harriers that aren't really paying attention, some asleep at the wheels, if you will, and then I would just go for gold. Grab yourself some more kills, try and boom and zoom a little bit, and of course keep your speed, because especially against Harriers, it's not really, it's not straightforward. It's doable. It's definitely doable, but it's not as easy as you may think. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Corsair 2. It's kind of nice. I wish it didn't have AIM-9Js for the balancing reasons against the lower tier stuff. Against Harriers, I wish it had AIM-9Ls, let's be real. But it's more a Harrier problem than an actual Corsair 2 problem that's sort of damaging the battle rating. But anyway, ladies and gents, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. My links to all my stuff are in the description below. If you want to leave a comment, please do. If you want to leave a like, that would feed the algorithm beautifully. Anyway, ladies and gents, thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.